Hey y'all, Bethany here. Welcome back to my channel, Bethany Brings Books. Today we're going to be talking about some things that I have been reading recently. So I'm really excited to be doing another video. I've been busy this spring and my reading it's slowed down a bit. It's picked back up recently. My kids have been on spring break this past week, so I've been able to read a lot more this week. But anyway, I have been just kind of in a funk off and on. I don't know. Just feeling restless, not knowing what to do with myself, feeling like there's a lot of stuff I need to do, but not wanting to do stuff. So yeah, it's been a whole thing. But I'm feeling a bit better now, and I've had goals in mind on some things that I want to do. Just some things that I've had in mind that I've kind of been feeling God nudging me to do, and goals that I've needed to move towards for a while now. Do what God is pushing me and nudging me to do. And so y'all just pray for me. There's some things that I'm working on, a project that I'm working on. I don't know if I really want to share a lot about it right now, but y'all know I'm not super, like, I'm not a very organized person. I want to be organized, but I'm not. I struggle with sticking with stuff sometimes, and this is something that I feel like God is calling me to do, and I want to stick with it. I want to be diligent in it. And so y'all just help me pray about it. And help me pray that I will do what God's asking me to do, and that I'll be able to, He can use me to glorify Him, to share my story in a way that will glorify Him and glorify the kingdom of heaven. But let's talk about what I've been reading through all of this. What have I been reading? So I've got my reading journal to kind of talk about some things. First, I just want to mention another audiobook that I listened to. Again, we talked about this on my last video. Audiobooks are hit or miss. They're a struggle with me. I have to find something that I can listen to and not be upset that I'm not getting every detail. Anyway, I've been wanting to listen to some stuff while I was working around the house, and so I listened to Reputation at Risk by Martha Keyes. This was okay. It is a Regency romance, and Martha Keyes is along the lines of like Sally Britton. I'm trying to think of some of those other authors. Martha Keyes, Sally Britton. There's a lot of those authors that write Regency on, and you find a lot of their books on Amazon that are more like independently published or smaller publishing houses. Anyway, I read that one, listened to it, and it was enjoyable. It was not anything that like really stuck with me, nothing super memorable. I definitely have read a lot of Regency that I enjoyed a lot more. I felt like this was just kind of meh, in my opinion. And that's just me. There's this, I think, if I can remember the storyline correctly, there's this young woman and her sisters and her mother. Their father passed away, and they're waiting to see what's going to happen with the estate. It's supposed to go to like a relative, I think. So they're trying to find this relative, and they're waiting on news from this relative to see, like, once he's tracked down, they'll probably have to leave their estate. And so they're trying to save money because, you know, they don't know where they're going, what's going to happen next. And our main character has been secretly drawing caricatures. I think that's how you say it, right? And her family doesn't know, and she writes them of like different people in the nobility and just people in England, and they're posted. She writes them for her local, like, I don't know if it's like the tavern or the local inn, I think. And the man like pays her, and he displays them, and they attract a crowd, and nobody knows she does it, because if they did find out, it would be kind of scandalous. And so she's doing that to help raise funds secretly for her and her sisters for whenever, you know, for whatever their future might be. And this, okay, I'm trying to remember what happens. She takes it to the inn, and she happens to find under a table, there's like a secret little drawer or cubby or something, and she finds this journal in it. And it ends up, she comes into there's someone, he is looking for the journal, and I think he's a spy. Is he a spy? I don't remember if he's a spy, but I don't remember. Anyway, he's trying to find the journal because his brother was like falsely accused of killing someone, and he thinks that this journal is going to hold the key to his brother, proving that his brother didn't do that. So when he goes to get the journal's gone, and then he ends up figuring out that this other lady got it, and so they're brought into contact with each other, and they're like, they meet, and there's kind of enemies to lovers, sort of. They're like at odds, conflicted, but they end up having to pretend to be engaged, I think. Is it a pretend engagement? I think it's a pretend engagement. Anyway, like I said, it was enjoyable as far as, it kept me entertained, but it wasn't anything like super spectacular. I wasn't just blown away by it. I would listen to the rest of the series on audio. I think it's still being published. There's like 2 or 3 in that so far, I think. Also, I read Persuasion this month. I have, was it this month or last month? Last month, I think. I think I read this, finished it in March. I've already read this with Shannon from Old American Spirit and Kelly from Kelly Reads a Lot, and we had such a great time buddy reading this. We read Sense and Sensibility last year, and we're planning to read Northanger later on this year, so it's just fun talking about these and talking about Jane. I've been wanting to reread this because y'all know I started reading Jane's books in, I think it was 2022, and I finished them last year. I had read all of her main works. So I was like, now that I want to reread Persuasion, because that was the first one I ever started with. And y'all, I loved this so much this time around. I really, so from my recollection of the first time I read it, I remember it was slow to start for me the first time, and wasn't sure what I was going to think about it, but I remember getting into it and enjoying it. But and I think I gave it like 4 stars maybe, I don't remember. But rereading this was just the best ever. Like, I love this so much. I think I learned something from rereading this, that rereading, even though I have, once you've read everything that someone like that's written, Jane, and there's never going to be anything new. You've read all her works. There's a little bit of bittersweet element to it, but at the same time, I discovered reading this that rereading can be so fun, because there's just something about rereading her book when you know the story overall. Now you're able to savor all the little details, and there's things that you pick up on. I feel like you pick up on more of the underlying details. At least in my opinion, there were just things I picked up on and I absorbed more, because I had already read it, and so I was just, I don't know, you're just more attuned to what's going on in the story, at least for me. And so rereading this was just absolutely delightful. Again, the first few chapters were slow. I definitely think if you try to read Persuasion, you have to push through those first like 3 chapters, 3 or 4, I can't remember. It's 3 or 4 chapters. Once you get to where Captain Wentworth shows up, for me, then I'm hooked, because I want to know what's going to happen next. But this, y'all, has gone up to the top, right there next to Pride and Prejudice now. Y'all, every time I read a Jane, I don't know which one's, I'm like, okay, this one's my favorite now. And so I think this is the order. Right now, this is the order. Pride and Prejudice, Persuasion, Mansfield Park, Emma, Northanger Abbey, and Sense and Sensibility, I think. Is that all of them? I think that's my order right now. I don't know. I love this so much, y'all. I loved it, especially, I feel like, overall, it's kind of slower and you're thinking, where's this, you know, what's going on? But then that ending just, it swept me away. Captain Wentworth's letter, and a spoiler here, if you have not read Persuasion, I'm going to go into a few spoilers so you can skip ahead if you need to, but the fact that when Captain Wentworth writes that letter, he is sitting there in the room with Anne. I don't know how that just completely went over my head the first time I read this, but I read it this time and I'm like, she's standing there talking and he's sitting there listening to her, and he's supposed to be writing a letter to someone else, and then he just is overcome and he has to write to her, and he's writing that letter while she's in the room, and then it's just the most perfect letter in all of literature. Like, there is no better love letter in all of literature. It's perfection, and it's beautiful, and I love it so much. What are you doing? Utterly beautiful, and this story just, it stole my heart, guys. I love it. I love it so much, and every time I read a Jane Austen, I fall more in love with her books, and I'm like, what are you doing? Let me open it for you. Go throw that in the trash. And once again, swept away, and I wish I could, what's the word? If I loved you less, I could talk about you. If I loved you less, I could talk about it more. Whatever that quote is from Emma. That's how I feel about this book. If I loved it less, I could talk about it more. Because I love it so much. I think I understood more to, like, Captain Wentworth's feelings in this, and more of Anne's feelings, and I feel like I understood their characters a little bit better this time around, and was able to grasp just some of the nuances of their character and the reasons why they made some of the decisions they did and acted the way they did a little bit better. Discovered that I really like Charles as a side character. I just liked him so much. I thought he was, as Anne's brother-in-law, he was just great. I don't know, there's just something about his character that I really loved this time around. I love how he's not a pushover. You know, sometimes in Jane's books we see some of these male characters being kind of dominated by the women. Not the main ones, but you know, you see some of these side characters. Their husbands kind of just let them get away with everything. And Charles seems kind of, he like loves Mary, but he's also strong and stands up to her and doesn't let her have her way all the time. That's something that I really enjoyed about this time around. So I read that. Let's see, what else did I read? Me and my kids read The Boxcar Children, the first book. We read that together. That was a reread for me. Like, I've read that one so many times. And we've been reading the second one, but we all really enjoyed this first one. Once again, The Boxcar Children is just, even though it's so unrealistic, you know, it's unrealistic. It's kind of like the adults in the book are, yeah, you're really going to let these kids keep living in a boxcar when you know have run away. No. But it's just fun, kind of, I don't know, it's just, it harkens back to a more gentler time period, I guess, in some ways, even though I know we probably idealize those older days, but I just think it was fun. I loved it as a kid, just the whole way, in the ingenious ways they found to survive. I loved it. I loved the characters. My kids thought it was really fun. They liked it, and they were immediately wanting me to start the next one. And then I finished the Samantha series, y'all. I read these two, Samantha Saves the Day and Changes for Samantha. Love these as well. I really liked this one very much. Samantha and her family go on vacation for the summer, and there's just some conversations about Samantha losing her parents and her grief in that. And I thought that was a very solid element of the story. I love reading about their vacation and the beautiful island that Samantha travels to. I just thought that was, I don't know, it felt very peaceful and serene and very calming and just soothing. And then this one is a little bit more sad. We have some sad changes for Nellie in this one. Some things that happen, but it does have a very nice ending. We see some beautiful little things happening, with Nellie and Samantha and Nellie's sisters, and so that was beautiful. I feel like overall as a series, I really enjoyed this. I love the time period that it's written in. I love early 1900s New York, the Gilded Age, I guess, as it were. I just think that's fascinating in my opinion, and we kind of get that element, those vibes from this story. I love the illustrations in these, as always. I just think they're so beautiful. I love the illustrations. I loved rereading this and just feeling all the nostalgia from the days of my youth, from my younger days, and reading this it kind of gives me insight into the things that shape me, how my reading shaped me. I like this series a lot. I think overall as a whole, it's a very solid 5-star series. I think it has a lot of good themes in it. See Samantha dealing with the grief and the loss of her parents. We see her showing kindness to Nellie and looking out for Nellie. I really, 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 really hope my kids, my girls especially, want to read this when they're young. Want to read this in a few years. Like, I really want them to read the American Girl series. I really do. I'm hoping they'll love them as much as I did. So this was fun reading this series, and I'm also trying to read all of the other books I have. So I have several short stories and also a mystery, I think a mystery story. So I'm trying to reread those as well, because some of those I have never read. So I think that's going to be fun, getting to read some Samantha stuff that I've never read. This one, I wasn't sure, but I have read this one. I remembered after I read it. Samantha's Winter Party. This is a short story, and very quick, easy read. This was a cute little story about Samantha having a party with her friends, and Nellie, of course, doesn't have as much money as the other girls, so Nellie comes up with a way to surprise them, and even though she doesn't have a lot of money, and that aspect of the story was so pretty. I love that. I remember reading this as a kid and thinking that I love what Nellie does with the whole the way she surprises Samantha and her friends. It's so pretty. Like, there's this, what she does is so magical. It just feels magical. It's like a delightful, magical sense of wonder, if that makes sense. Y'all know what I mean by the word magical. But yes, those were fun to read. And I also have listened to an audio of Agatha Christie, 4 and 20 Blackbirds. I think I listened to this one sometime in the past, or either watched it. I'm not sure, but I'm trying to listen to some of the short stories, Poirot short stories. This one is about Poirot is dining at this restaurant, and a conversation comes up about someone who normally eats at a restaurant constantly. His routine never changes, but recently he came in and his order changed, and they were like, it comes up in conversation with the waitress, I think, or something, and Poirot is intrigued by this. He's like, this is weird. So he begins to investigate this, even though it's like they're kind of brushing it off. He's like, there's something off with this story. And then anyway, the man ends up dead shortly thereafter, and it's like an accident. He fell down the stairs. Poirot's like, no, there's something off about this, and he investigates, and then it's like a little short story about that, and it's actually pretty good as short stories go. I think it was a little snippet of insight into how Poirot's mind works and how he solves these mysteries. It was a good short story. I guess this has been the month of rereading. The past few months, this past year actually really has been. I've reread several things, so this has just been rereading. I reread The Blue Castle by Ellen Montgomery, and I've been wanting to reread this for. I first read it in 2022, I think, and I've been wanting to reread it ever since. I heard about this book here on Booktube, and I heard so many people hype it and talk about how amazing it was, and it was better than the Anne series, and it was just amazing book. So the first time I read this book, I went into it with like expectations in the clouds, and that was part of what really affected my first time reading this. The whole time I was reading it, I had this sense of anticipation of like, what's going to happen? When's it going to get super good, like amazing, blow me out of the water? And I ended up being really disappointed the first time I read it. And I know it was because of my expectations. And so ever since then, I was like, I really want to reread it. So I decided to pick it up and reread it. And so, y'all, so the first like half or maybe quarter of this, I was very frustrated, and I was like, at one point I was like, I don't even know if I want to finish this. Because there's just something about the main character Valancy, and I'm going to go into some spoilers here, so if you have not read this and you don't want to hear spoilers, then you can skip ahead, but I am going to get into some spoilers here. So Valancy, our main character, she is just, I don't know what it is about her, but she rubs me the wrong way. During the first half of this, there's just something about her that gets under my skin, and I think it's just the whole first 25, 30, 40% of the book. It feels like all she's doing is whining about her life and how horrible her life is, because even though she has been raised, you know, in a good home and she's not poor or anything like that, she feels like she's been isolated and in prison, and her family is so horrible, and they're so mean to her, and she's like 29 years old, or 30, 29 or 30, and she's just miserable, and it's whine all the time. And like there's parts where she's like in her room, and she is talking about how much she hates the curtains and the wallpaper and the bedspread and everything. Maybe not exactly, but all those details, and it's like, Valancy, just shut up. I'm so annoyed. She really got on my nerves, y'all. And it felt like she was just, even though she would talk about how mean her family was, it also felt like she was being mean to them. And I don't know, I just really struggle with that aspect. I think that's just the biggest thing that I struggle with is her character in relation to theirs. Like, they're horrible characters, but she's also not thinking nice things about them either. And so I don't know, y'all, and maybe it's just something about me, my perspective, the way I look at it. I just can't click with her character entirely in that first part of the book. It's like, I understand her relatives are mean and they are very annoying, but also she annoys me. And maybe it's just the fact that she's being, like, we're seeing her thoughts, and her thoughts are very real as far as how she feels. There's no sugarcoating. Maybe that's it, I don't know. But y'all, it gets better, because I was so annoyed, and someone on my Goodreads was like, Valancy is really one of the characters I hate the most. And someone was like, well, she has, just wait, just keep reading, she has a lot of character growth. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to stick with it because I want to finish this and see. And y'all, I'm so glad I did, because I ended up loving this so much. And it's like I'm torn, and I don't know how to review this. I gave it 4.5 stars because I did love it, like the second half, so much. I think the more I read it, the more I'll fall in love with it. It's just that first part that gets me, and that's the part that irks me, is how Valancy acts. Anyway, the second half, amazing. I loved it so much. It's this overall story, I would say it feels kind of fanciful, fairy tale like in some ways. sweet romance. So one of the things also that I think about every time I read this book, or both times I've read this, is that so many people I see on here love this book, but don't really like romance that much. And I can, like, they talk about how I've heard people talk about how cheesy romance novels are, or they don't like romance, but they love this book, and I'm like, the overall plot of this story is basically that of a cheesy romance, a modern day cheesy romance. And I know Ellen Montgomery, it must be Ellen Montgomery's writing style that makes up for it for people, because she writes so beautifully, and that's what I love so much the second half of this book, just her nature descriptions and the way she makes you feel like you're right there. I think the setting is like supposed to be Muskoka. I guess that's how you say it, Muskoka, I'm not sure. And she just makes you, she really made me want to go there. Like, it sounds so beautiful from her descriptions, and I love that element. Like, her writing is so beautiful. Every time I read Ellen Montgomery, y'all, I don't know if am I the only person who does this, but I'm sure I'm not. But when I read her books lately, I've been like going outside and sitting on my porch, and you find yourself trying to think the way she writes, like the way she describes scenery and nature, and I'm like, she just had an amazing way of writing about nature. I don't know, just something. She was very talented at that. And so, yeah, overall, that part of the story, the way she writes, her talent with writing about nature is just so beautiful, so descriptive. This is a marriage of convenience story. Squeaky clean, at nothing as far as marriage of convenience aspect, nothing bad at all. But yeah, so the story, I'm sure a lot of y'all have read this, but the storyline is Valancy is this young woman who just turned, I think she turns 29. Yeah, she turns 29 at the start of the story, and basically she's miserable because she feels like her whole life she's a spinster, and she's stuck doing whatever her mother says, and her uncles and cousins and everybody are just always kind of picking on her, and her life has been very much at the whims of everyone else. She has not been able to make her own decisions and do life the way she thinks, and so she gets this information from a doctor that's very not good. It's quite tragic, and so she decides at that point, after she gets this information, she's going to live life the way she wants to live life. She's going to quit doing whatever her family says and obeying their whims and being treated badly just because she's always been afraid of how they were going to react if she made up her own mind about some things and did her own and made her own choices. And so then there comes Barney into the story. He is a young man that very mysterious. Everyone about town, there's rumors flying about him that he's a criminal and all of this stuff, and he lives over on an island, and he comes into Valancy's life, and y'all know it's a marriage of convenience, so you know Barney and Valancy end up in this relationship, and there's things that come about, and it's a beautiful story. I fell in love with Barney, y'all. He is precious, so sweet, so sweet. So I can't say enough about the second half of this book. I thought it was adorable. I thought Barney was so sweet and precious, and just, I love that. I love him and Valancy together. I did see the character growth in Valancy, but I think it just felt like, in a sense, with Valancy, that her circumstances changed, and then instantly her character changed. We began to see her, just the way she interacts with other people, change. And maybe I'm just reading into it the fact that, I guess for me, it felt like a switch, like flip a light switch and she changes. And I guess there's a part of me that can understand it in a sense if she's been in a place where she wasn't really allowed to bloom, and like now her circumstances change and she is allowed to bloom and do good towards others and really develop her relationships with others. And that impacts how her character is in the book, and it impacts the way we see her in a positive light, I guess. I don't know. I hope that makes sense. Yeah. So I can see both sides of it. I can see that it feels like in some senses the flip of a switch, but also at the same time I can also see where Valancy could be that type of person that if she is in a different atmosphere where people are not so oppressive of her, she's able to bloom. So yeah, I see both sides of the story. But yes, guys, I'm so glad I reread this because I did really fall in love with like the second half of the story and the descriptions and Barney, and yeah, it ended up being quite beautiful. Even though yes, I still have my issues with it, but I have quite fallen in love with it, y'all. So the Blue Castle. And I've also had several people talk about this edition, and I wanted to mention this. So I've had several people mention how pretty it is. So I found this edition a while back. I think it was earlier this year on Amazon, and I think I even mentioned when I did a book haul. It says on the back, "The Lost Book Project," and it says in the front, "Rediscovering and reviving timeless treasures," and it says like that their thing is to bring forgotten literary treasures back to life. And so I was like, I saw that, I was like, I wonder what other books they're trying to restore. Well, y'all, I'm gonna tell y'all this, and this weirded me out a bit. I finally the other day decided to look it up, the website, and this book is no longer available on the website, and it's not available on Amazon either. You can't find this anymore. I went there to see what other books they had, and almost like all of the books were the weirdest, like books about spells and magic and superstition and witchcraft and stuff like that, occult. And I was like, and then like if you look at the page, I don't know if it's about them or a link where they have where they're doing videos about casting spells and weird stuff, and I was like, what? This is weird. There was nothing, no like classic books. It was all weird stuff like that, like weird stuff that they're trying to publish about books like that. And so I don't know if I'm so confused because I can't find this anymore on Amazon. If I go to the link where I ordered it, this book is not available because I ordered it through Amazon, but they have their own website of where they were publishing this. It's not available at all. It's just all of these other weird books, and so it weirded me out. I was like, okay, that's weird. So I wanted to mention that in case, I know some people may have watched that other video, and in case if y'all do go to that website, it's very weird. I wouldn't go to it. And I mean, I'm just saying, like, it has weird stuff on it. Like, I thought that they were, when I read that, I thought it was some kind of company that was trying to bring back like old books, old classics that had not really been that are not still in publication, you know, like a lot of these authors that had lesser known authors that had classic books that are not still in publication, but that is not what it was at all. And so I was like, okay, that's weird. And I almost made me wonder if they did this as a front to get people to go to their page. I don't know, y'all. If y'all have any insight into that, let me know. I don't know what was up with that, but yeah, this edition I think is very pretty, but I will say, like I said, it's not available anymore, and that website that published it is just weird. I don't know what's up with them and their publications, but definitely wouldn't order anything else from them at all. That was just weird, and very weird in my opinion. And like I said, I didn't realize that when I ordered it. I ordered it from Amazon, and I was like, oh, this is pretty. And I ordered it, and then after I got it, I saw, you know, that Lost Book Project thing on it and looked it up. But anyway, guys, let's just talk very quickly about what I have been reading. So after reading that, I decided I wanted to go ahead and pick up another Anne book. One of my goals this year is to read the rest of the Anne series. I have 6 and 7 to do. I don't remember if there's an 8 in the... Is there 8? Yeah, there is. Yes. So I have the last three, and I have been reading Anne of Ingleside, and y'all, I love this so much. I think I'm just in the mood for Ellen Montgomery's writing, and this, I'm about that time far into it. I've read about that much, and I'm just finding it so delightful. And I was a little bit worried that the rest of the series was not going to be the best for me, or not going to be as good for me, because 4 and 5 were not my greatest favorites. I really like 1 and 3. 4 and 5 were kind of meh, in my opinion. And I hate to say that because I love Anne and the series. But this one I have been so delighted in. I think the first couple of chapters, it opens up and Anne is back home on PEI, or back home at Green Gables, and in Avonlea at Green Gables, and there's just that element that feels like you see her revisiting her old places and conversing with Diana, and there's just something about that brings back that nostalgia. And so then she travels back home, and now we're seeing, over the last few chapters, we've just seen various interactions with her children and the shenanigans they're getting into, and trying to matchmake, and having another baby. It's just all of these little different things going on, and it's so cozy. This book just makes me want to go sit on my porch and enjoy nature and take walks and strolls and enjoy the springtime and appreciate all of the beauty around me, like Ellen Montgomery does, her writing does. But I'm loving this so much, y'all. So much. I think it's going to be, I don't know. I think it's going to be a favorite, but we'll see as the story goes on. Another book that I've been reading, and this one I need to pick back up. I had read part of it, and then I've kind of put it down for a little bit. But I need to pick it back up. But that's Praying Hyde. This is a nonfiction about the missionary John Hyde. It's interesting, like, reading about him. I think there's probably some other I think there's some other books about his life that would probably be a little bit more readable. This one's it feels a little dense and a little bit hard to read at times. And even a review I read a review about it, and someone else kind of had those same thoughts, that they've read better biographies of him. But yeah, I'm interested in reading, finishing it and reading more about him. He was a missionary to India, and so yeah, I need to pick this back up. I've kind of put it to the side for a little bit, but and then finally today I picked this back up, The Sword of Truth by Gilbert Morris. Holly from Lovely Day with Holly and I are buddy reading this, and I've been busy and I've been reading other things and have not picked it up, but finally I picked it back up today, and I am very interested in it. Alright guys, sorry, I've got to hurry up and wrap this up. My phone went dead. But yes, I finally have picked this back up and become very interested in it. Sorry if the angles changed. I had to rearrange this. But yeah, I'm really becoming more intrigued with this. So I'm hoping to maybe finish it this weekend. My kids have been on spring break and they go back next week, so I know I'll get busy. And I don't want to... I've been slowly reading it, and I really just want to go ahead and finish it, because I feel like the longer I take to read it, the more, I don't know, it's harder for me to remember the first part of the book, and I just want to go ahead and read it, finish it. And like, there's a bunch of books in this series, so I would like to go ahead and finish it so I can read more. But yes, I've been reading this one. It's an old book by Gilbert Morris. It was published in when was it published? 1994. So 21 years old, or 31 years old. Yeah, 31 years old. Yeah, it's set during the reign of King Henry VIII, and it's interesting. Yeah, I've been reading that, and there's also a multitude of other things I've been reading. I'm not going to talk about here. I really don't have time today, but I've been reading an ARC, Grace Hitchcock book, To Kiss a Night. I've been reading that. I've been reading multiple other books, so I am really reading a lot of different stuff, but trying to be more focused and finish some things up lately. So anyway guys, thank y'all for watching. I hope y'all have enjoyed this. Let me know if y'all read any of these books. There was a question while ago I was thinking about. I was going to ask y'all what Oh, the American Girl books. What American Girl book series do y'all think I should read next? That's what I would love to know. What do y'all think I should read next? Because I want to read another one. So I read Kit last year, so I don't want to read that one right now. But like Felicity, Addie, Kirsten, Josefina, Molly. Which one should I read next? Let me know, guys. Let me know. Because I would love your insight. Talk to you guys later. See you in the next video. Bye.